Hey friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm grateful to have you here. I'm going to be using some new Spellbinders products that I received from their recent release this year for today because this is Christmas on the 25th when this goes up. I have the Playful Poinsettia 3D embossing folder and die, the Quilt 3D embossing folder, and Simon Snow Globe Etched dies. All three of these are again released from Spellbinders in collaboration with Simon Hurley. I've done my die cutting of the Simon Snow Globe Etched dies with some cardstock. This is one of my Your Paper Insider boxes. I believe the very first one. Let me look through my notes here. Yes, subscription box number 1 from fall 2022. I still have paper from that box. I have been feeling like I need to just sit and cut some strips out of my leftover pieces as inspired by my friend Sarah Liz over at Sassy. Her YouTube channel. She makes great cards with strips. And since I have so much cardstock left, I mean, it's not like a lot of cardstock, but it's a lot of scraps. I think I just need to sit and die cut and have some strips ready to go for some quick and easy cards for when I'm feeling like a lack of inspiration and motivation, which unfortunately is kind of how I was feeling when I started this card. It had been a few days since I've been in the craft room, and I always feel like when I come back in the craft room, I am scatterbrained. So I'm hoping that today still brings you some inspiration, even though I'm a little bit of a mess. I'm going to be doing a little bit of ink blending now that I've finished die cutting out my different pieces, and I'm starting with the base of my snow globe. This is actually kind of a pale peachy pink color, and I am using Distress ink in Vintage Photo and one of my scrapbook.com blending brushes to add on that brown ink, and I thought that turned out really pretty. I'm also going to add a little bit of shine to my yellow cardstock pieces. These are, I wanted it to look kind of gold, so I grabbed one of my Distress mica sprays, and it is in the tarnished brass color. And I just shook it up and got a paintbrush and started painting on this solid cardstock piece that I die cut. And it didn't exactly turn out as metallic as I was thinking it would in my head. It is a very sheen color, which is, what is expected. But I just thought it would be a lot more brass looking, and it was not, but that's okay. I'm going to set this aside to dry and I'm going to add some ink later on. But it does have a really nice shine to it, and I wanted it to look like I had a metallic label on it, I guess you could say. So I grabbed some warm honey distress ink and I'm going to ink up the Jingle Bells die cut. So the front of my um, label, I guess, my metallic label that will be on my snow globe. And it does have a very like orangey gold look to it now. It looks a little more brass. And then I decided to add the same color on top of the mica spray stain that I painted with. And it really orangeyed, is that a word? Orangeyed it up. And it felt a little more brassy than what I was going for. So I'm kind of happy with how this turned out at the end. And I'm just going to glue these two pieces together. That way it looks like Jingle Bells was like hammered into the metal part that will be on the snow globe. So just gluing those together, I was having some trouble getting them to stick, I think because of the mica spray. So I'm just going to grab like a towel that I keep next to me for cleaning and just really kind of add pressure and make sure that those two pieces were stuck together. I'm going to clean up real quick and then I'm going to grab Pine Needles Distress ink and I'm going to add it to my trees. So just on the bottom, adding a little bit of shading to these three little tiny trees. I love that there is a like debossed look to them. And if you're having trouble getting that look, I definitely recommend running anything with a die cut with an embossing look to it with a magic mat from scrapbook.com. It does wonders. So now I'm going to cut a panel of this super shimmery silver cardstock. I'm figuring out, how I can center my snow globe, and I settle on cutting this down to 5¼ by 4. So I'll have a border around this shiny piece of silver cardstock. And I was getting ahead of myself, and I went ahead and embossed it with the Quilt 3D embossing folder, which looks so cool. It reminds me of the Epcot ball in Florida. But I needed to die cut a circle first, and I didn't want to ruin my beautiful embossing, so I cut another piece of my silver, and I'm grabbing the circle part of my snow globe set and using some mint tape to keep that in place while I run that through my die cut machine. And once I have that, I will run it through my embossed folder again, and now I have what will be the cover of my shaker panel and will be what looks like my snow globe. So you can see how the base is going to look when I attach it to the front. But let's move on to the shaker element. I have a piece of acetate here. These are actually, my aunt gave them to me. She got a big stack a while ago. I've had these for a long time now of transparency sheets. I don't know if you remember transparencies at school. But they were like a box of them. So she like gave me half of them, and I've been working my way through them for shaker cards. So I cut 2 squares down that I know would fit behind the opening of my, I keep wanting to call my Epcot ball, but the front of my shaker, so my embossed panel. And I was about to attach my acetate to the back when I realized, wait, I wanted to add my row of homes to the front of my shaker. So I'm going to do that real quick by adding some glue to where I know that my papers will overlap, so I can attach this row of houses to the back side of my shaker opening. And I'm using the base of my snow globe just to help make sure I place those houses with enough spacing so they're not too high but not too low that you don't see them when I attach the base of the snow globe. So once those are in place, I just trimmed off the cardstock that went, past the edge of the panel. And now I'm going to add my first layer of acetate. So I'm adding some double-sided adhesive on all 4 sides of this piece of acetate that will go on the back window. I went ahead and peel off all of the release paper, and then I added some double-sided adhesive to the houses, on the back side of the houses, as well as trying to follow the edge of that snowy hill. And then I went ahead and added the acetate. So the adhesive was sticking to the back of the panel from the acetate, and then my houses had the adhesive to stick to the acetate panel as well. And I went ahead and left the little pieces of my house windows in the houses. I didn't take them out, but one did fall out, so I was just gluing that right back in. So now I have the front of my shaker panel done. I'm grabbing some double-sided adhesive. This particular one is from Heffy Doodle. As you can see, I'm trying to finish up my roll here, and I peel off both sides of the release paper so I can turn and twist and bend my foam adhesive while I'm adding it around my shaker window. I want to just have my shaker bits stay in the opening of my snow globe, so I'm going around the circle and I'll go across beneath the houses, and then I will also fill up the rest of my panel with foam adhesive, so when I glue this panel down to the card base, everything has a nice level of foam adhesive. It's all on the same level when I glue it down. I am going to be using a new sparkle mix from Heffy Doodle. It's called Whipped Cream, and I thought it was perfect for snow, but I'm going to use this calls for confetti anti-static tool. It's like a really cool little tool just to go around the inside of your shaker window so your foam doesn't, have anything sticky or staticky on it. And I went ahead and added my sequin bits, and then I am preparing my panel to attach to the back side of my shaker. So I actually added some adhesive to the four sides of this acetate as well, but the adhesive is actually facing me, so that way when I attach this to the card base, my adhesive is already on the acetate panel to stick to this kind of blue piece of cardstock that is going to be the back of my shaker panel. And I was about to lay it down when I realized I forgot other parts of my shaker. Again, I'm so sorry. I'm a bit of a mess right now. I know that I want to add my second hill here behind my houses. So I am going to trim it to fit behind my panel. So my panel is 4 inches wide. So I'm using my brand new Spellbinders trimmer to make sure I cut this back panel to be 4 inches wide. And that way, or actually I think it's slightly smaller than 4 inches, so that way if I don't get it lined up perfectly, it's okay. It won't show, past the edges of that silver embossed panel. Now, the back side of my shaker already has some adhesive because I added the adhesive to the acetate, and I already peeled off all of the release paper for my foam. So I'm just going to see where I like that back hill to be on the back side of my shaker, and I just press down to pick up that piece. And I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the back of that panel once I'm done adding in my Santa and little reindeer. For this, I'm using my liquid adhesive with a fine point opening, so that way I could get glue on all of these little tiny cute little elements. And I'm going to adhere this directly to my blue background. So here is where I kind of wish I would have decorated my blue cardstock a little bit. It does feel very plain, I feel like, when I'm, looking at my card now that it's done. But it is very busy on the front of the panel. So I have, my shaker bits and my houses. I'm going to add in my trees, and then also my silver panel that's embossed is very busy looking. So I guess it doesn't really need anything in the background, but it just felt very plain to me. But if you use this card as inspiration, obviously decorate it however you would like to inside of your snow globe. I added that double-sided adhesive, like I said, to the back panel, and I'm adding a couple more pieces to my acetate where it won't be seen through the shaker. And I went ahead and added this to the center of that blue cardstock that has my Santa, and that will be the back side of my shaker. So it's looking pretty good. And then I remember that I wanted to add those trees on the back hill. So they're gonna go on the front of my card now. I was gonna do like one in the very back and then two in the front, but all three are now on the front. So I'm using some liquid adhesive. I'm gonna tuck one of my trees here with my houses in the back, kind of on the left. And then I will add the other two a little bit closer to the base of my snow globe and on the right. So it feels a little more, I guess, even and balanced. I am going to add my base onto the front of my card here, just using some double-sided adhesive again. I thought about popping it up, but when you have a shaker card using that thicker foam, adding even more dimension just might make the card a little too thick to fit into an envelope. And I am not a fan of making my own envelopes, so I don't want to add too much, so that way my card will still fit in a nice envelope to mail or hand deliver. I'm using my grid mat to help me get the base of my snow globe as centered as possible. And then I will use my liquid adhesive to attach my Jingle Bells metallic-y looking plate for my snow globe. That will finish off this card. So let me just kind of pick up my desk a little, and then here is a close-up of my shaker card. It's kind of a wild one. Like I said, I wish I would have done a little bit more in my background, but you know what? It's a snow globe, and we should be focusing on the pretty snow on the inside of the snow globe. Here's a quick little look at my card, but we're going to jump on to card number 2. For this card, I'm using the Playful Poinsettia 3D embossing folder and coordinating die. It cuts out this large poinsettia kind of in the center towards the side. It's like the only full poinsettia that you can cut out anyway. So I have never done one of these embossing folder like die cuts before. So I grabbed a piece of green cardstock and a piece of red, and I'm going to trim a panel down. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this card yet. Again, I'm just trying to get my crafty mojo going again. So I'm just going to cut an A2 panel. So I did 5.5 by 4.25 of this green cardstock, and I'm going to run it through my embossing folder. I do spray a little bit of water on the back side and just kind of use my fingers to rub it in to help kind of loosen those fibers. So when I run it through my die cut machine to emboss, it doesn't like tear my paper in any way. It just kind of helps with the embossing process. And I wanted to show you my sandwich for how I run this through. I have my A plate. I put my sandwich in, and I make sure to put the folded part of my sandwich through first. And then I put the plate, the gray plate. I think it's the D plate for embossing. Now for the poinsettia, I'm kind of measuring how big I need to cut this red piece of cardstock. So I'm trimming this to be a square that's 3.5 by 3.5. And I will grab the die to die cut this out first. I'm not really sure if you can technically like run this through with the die inside of your embossing folder. Again, I don't really have a lot of experience with this type of product, so I just die cut first, add a little bit of water to my red cardstock, and then I'm going to line this up with the poinsettia. Let me know in the comments if I'm doing this right or if there's another way to use this product, but I really like how it turned out. I did pretty good lining it up, closing up my sandwich, and then running it through my machine. Here you can see it looks really good. So I think I did it correctly, but let me know if I could do it an easier way in the future. So I'm looking at how my flower is layered on the green cardstock, and I'm going to cut off 1/2 inch off both sides. I end up doing about 1/4 inch off all 4 sides. So when I layer this piece of green onto a piece of gold cardstock, there's a really nice, pretty border around the green. And my green paper ended up being a little brighter than I think I wanted, so I'm going to grab another Distress ink color. This is Pine Needles, and I'm going to add this Distress ink around all 4 sides of my cardstock. And then I also grabbed Aged Mahogany and a smaller brush to blend in the center of my poinsettia just to darken it up. And I wanted to try this technique. I see Simon Hurley do it all the time. So I'm just using my finger to pick up some of the lunar paste. This is the color Slippery When Wet. And I'm adding it to the center of all the poinsettias using my finger. So I did it to the center of my red, and then the 2 centers that are on the green background. And I wanted to bring in more for the berries that are also in the background. So this is Game Over lunar paste. These are also from Simon Hurley in collaboration with Ranger Ink. And again, just picking up some of that lunar paste with my finger and gently coloring in some of the embossed images, so the little red berries. And I did okay. I definitely have need some more practice, but again, just trying to push my mixed media boundaries that I barely push because I don't like mixed media in the sense that I feel like I have no control. I'm a very type A person, so splatter is about as messy as I get. So I thought I'd add in some splatter as well. This is from the Holiday Set 1 Tim Holtz Distress Mica Stains. And I went ahead and splattered that on, but I didn't want to wait for it to dry. So I'm just going to lay my microfiber cloth down, and that will help speed up the drying process for the splatter and even a bit of the lunar paste. So here's when I grabbed some gold cardstock from my stash. This is from Paper Source. It's a shimmer gold cardstock. I don't normally shop too much at Paper Source anymore, but I had a gift card, so I stocked up on some unique cardstock like this really pretty gold shimmery cardstock. And I trimmed that to be an A2 panel. I'm using some liquid glue to attach this panel, this green embossed panel, to the gold. I'm just going to center it, and you'll see it has a really nice border around the green because I trimmed off so much of it. I really wanted more gold on this card. To attach my poinsettia, I'm going to grab some foam adhesive. I'm going to layer on a sentiment, so I decided to use thinner foam squares for my poinsettia. So when I attach my sentiment with regular foam adhesive that I normally use, it will have a little bit of a difference in the layering. So my poinsettia is attached now with that foam adhesive. And for my sentiment, I'm going to grab the must-have sentiments from Simon Hurley. I need to get the Christmas ones because I definitely could have benefited from having the Christmas sentiments for this card, but we're going to make it work. I'm using polished brass Glimmer hot foil, and I'm just trimming down my foil with some large scissors since I didn't need to get, too intricate with my cutting today. And I'm using some white cardstock to hot foil these sentiments on. I absolutely love that all of these sentiments are just on one plate, and the die is also one big die. So once I have my sentiments here, and I just love how pretty these look in gold, this font is so pretty. I can run all of this through with one die, and while I'm only using Sending Hugs today, I'm saving all the rest for future cards, so I'm really excited that it's quick and easy to hot foil sentiments. So love this. I'm going to be getting the other ones. And to attach this, like I said, I'm using my foam adhesive this is 2 millimeters thick compared to my thinner foam squares that I used. And I'm adding foam adhesive behind my sentiment. I peeled off the release paper, and I'm going to attach this underneath my poinsettia and a little bit to the left to try to balance out the flower being more towards the right. And here is a close-up look at this card. Like I said, the green is a little bit more green than I wanted. I should have done a little bit more of a pine darker green, but I think that turned out pretty cute. Here's a look at my shaker card again. It's very, very shiny, very festive. I had fun playing with these new products. Again, I've never used an embossing folder with a die before, so while these cards were just definitely me playing around and trying to spark up my creativity again, I hope you still found some inspiration today, and thank you for bearing with me in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!